welcome to NAPOD, where we provide NA speaker meetings and workshops in a podcast. We are an ad-free podcast, and if you enjoy listening, please help us to be self-supporting by visiting napod.xyz, look for the donate link, and drop $1 or $2 in the virtual basket. If you're also in AA or have friends that are, please tell them about our other podcast, Sobercast. Sobercast features AA speakers and workshops in the same format as NAPOD. We upload a new speaker every day, and it's easy to subscribe by searching for Sobercast, that's 2 words, on any podcast player app, or go to Sobercast.com. Enjoy the podcast, and thanks for listening.
My name is Amy. I met her, 6 months ago, Amy? Something like that? We met. We had many conversations on a recovery website, and I really love her spirit, the way she presents herself, the service that she does for Narcotics Anonymous. Everything about her just oozes spirituality. It was a no-brainer to ask her to come up here to New York City and share her experience, strength, and hope with us at this Dinosaur Speaker Jam. So I'm going to introduce Amy from Alachua, Florida.
My name's Amy. I'm an addict. I'd like to thank Edwin for organizing this and giving me an opportunity to share my experience, strength, and hope about recovery. I want to thank God for taking the desire to want to use dope away. I want to thank God for letting me see today that He took the desire to want to use dope away. And I want to thank Him for building a house that the whole world could live in. Narcotics Anonymous is home. If you don't feel like Narcotics Anonymous is your home, just stick around. Just keep coming back. If you're new, just give yourself a break. Keep coming back until you feel a part of. That transformation took a little while for me because I didn't feel at home anywhere. I come from a Jewish family. I grew up in the D.C. area. And I didn't suffer any abuse, like physical, no sexual. I know my parents did the best they had with what they had to work with. Somehow or other, my whole life, I felt alone, isolated, and in constant fear. Just unloved. I don't remember being told I love you. I don't really remember being held, and I don't know if they tried and I rejected it. I'm not really sure, but Amy did not feel lovable. And so my whole journey in life has been trying to find love. You know, looking for love in all the wrong places and looking for love in too many faces. You know, and that's, that's been my story. I used dope for 12. I went out to a party. I had a bottle of Boone's Farm and a jar of everything out of the bar. I went to it was a school dance, and I didn't make it home till 1989. And the first time I put a substance in my body, I blacked out. I don't remember saying I can't go to Hebrew school the next morning. I don't remember that. I just didn't go. I don't remember. So, I started out with the bottle of Boone's Farm, and it just progressed. By the time I was 17 years old, I had a monkey on my back. You know, we don't talk about the substance in here, but it was a hell of a lot different for me just dropping a pill or smoking something. When I started shooting dope and being dope sick, my life took a whole incredible different turn. Now I had to get up every day and get dope, and life just started becoming more degraded. You know, all the things that I said that I wouldn't do in 7th grade in social studies, you know, because they came in and told us, you know, about heroin. If you smoke pot, you'll end up a heroin addict. I'm like, oh yeah, right. And all the things, you know, there was just so many things that I said that I would never do, and I've done all of those. And I still have, if I put dope in my body, I still have a lot of not yets. And so, let's see. You know, it's a trick to be alive for 52 years and try to tell your story in an hour. There's something magical that happens in the room, you know. My first NA convention was 1989, and it was called The Magic is Real. So this is one of those tricks that we get to perform here, the magic trick of trying to carry a clear message in a short period of time. I'll share one thing. At that convention, I had a few months clean. You know, and it was great. I was in Orlando. I had gone down. I got clean in a place called Augusta, Georgia. We ran out of money. We ran out of dope. My husband had robbed the dope dealer, and that's where we ended up. And I was able to get clean, and he couldn't. So I've been clean 21 years, and he just got out of prison in March. And I'll explain, you know, what that's like in recovery, you know, raising a child. So anyway, at that convention, you know, they have the speaker meeting on Saturday night, and then they do where you're from. You know, they start with Alabama and end up in, if we have whatever the last state in the United States is. I had been ripping and running for so long. I was born in D.C., I grew up in Maryland, I ended up in Florida, then I was in Georgia, then I was in North Carolina. Oh yeah, and then what about, so every time they said a state, I was like, you know, do I get up? You know? And what happened was I ended up in the bathroom for the rest of the convention just crying because I realized, that was a spiritual awakening. I realized I didn't really have a home. You know, I was like some air plant that never took root anywhere, and it hurt. You know, I started to look at, you know, myself, and but then I had a lot of hope that, you know, maybe I can find a home, and I was finding that home in Narcotics Anonymous because y'all just kept loving me till, you know, today I really love myself. So. Okay, so I get clean, and my husband just wasn't hearing the same message. We had gone to an NA meeting in 1985. I was pregnant. We got out of the meeting. I can't remember what was said, but I was like, oh my God, you know, and I felt hope. And he said, well, I'm not going to stop smoking pot. And I was like, oh, okay. You know, it's like I didn't have the strength, or, you know, I just couldn't make any decisions. I just followed everybody. That was my pattern. Amy followed you, you know, whatever you said. So I went on, you know, I had my daughter in 1986, and, you know, there were periods of time where the drugs changed. You know, in that period of time, I ended up with a day in jail. Then I had 30 days in jail. Then I got 1 year in the D.C. jail. Then I ended up with 3 to 5 years. And I did 2 years in what they called a therapeutic community. And that's, it just slowed me down. There wasn't a 12-step program. It was what they called TCs back then. And, if you did something wrong, you had to walk around with a big old sign and said, confront me. And, I did this, and, oh, you were bad. Here's a toothbrush. Get your ass in the dumpster. And they used to wake me up at like 2, 3 in the morning, because they knew I didn't know how to say no to anybody. They could see, my defects, and they used to wake me up at like 2 or 3 in the morning. Can you take so-and-so to the doctor? And I'd be like, yeah, okay. Get your ass back in bed. We just woke you up because we knew you couldn't say no. And, so that was, that was all before Narcotics Anonymous. Those were, that was the court system stepping in, to try to save me. I was court committed to methadone. I had to kick that in jail. That was when I said, the only time I remember going, God, please, I just want to die. I couldn't stand that pain. So all along, just life is just very, very lonely. Even with people, I didn't love me. I didn't know how to let you love me. So then so in 1989, I'm walking home. I didn't really know where I was. I was in Augusta, Georgia. Like I said, my husband had robbed the dope man. We ran out of money, ran out of dope in Augusta, Georgia. And he spent the lady's rent money, and she said, you can stay. Well, of course I helped him with the dope, but he took it. It was his idea. And the lady said, you can stay here, but he's got to go. And I said, okay. I said, I've had enough. I got to stop this, because we had left my daughter at his mother's house in North Carolina. And I said, I cannot do this anymore. I miss my baby. I missed my daughter. And, it's got to end. So I stayed in that house. And she had a little dog that had no hair on it, and she was like a Salvation Army worker, and she was all about goodwill. And he left. I said, you've got to go. I'm staying here. I'm going to make the change. You can't do it. I am. There's a friggin' rat in the house the size of a dog, and I am petrified of rats. But I was like, I've got to do this. I've got to stay here. I'm going down to the health department. I'm going to get a bag of rat killer, and I'm going to get this thing, and I'm going to get my daughter, and I'm going to have a life. And so soon after that, I went. It was my birthday, and I couldn't stay clean. I took the rent money off the fireplace, and I had gotten my daughter back. The rat died, the big old, hole of government flour, the thing. Anyway, the rat was gone. I go out and use, and I come back, and all my stuff was on the porch. And it took me all night and half the day to find out where I was. I had walked home over a bridge. I had done things, because now I didn't have a husband, so I did things that night that were nasty, trying to get another hit. And so I look up at the porch, and I'm like, oh my God. And she said, you know what, she gave me a quarter to go to the payphone, or maybe it was a dime, I don't know. They had payphones in. So I go, and she says, go and try to get some help, and I'll take care of your daughter. So I go, and I'm looking in the phone book, and I'm trying to call these places. I called the state facility, and she says, well, let's see, we got a bed, and what kind of insurance do you have? And I said, I'm a fucking junkie. I don't have insurance. I don't have a car. I didn't even have a dime to call you. I I don't have insurance. She says, well, you know, this facility you have to have insurance. And so she gave me a number to Sharon, who she said, this lady will come and take you to a meeting. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so I told the lady, Sharon's coming to get me. Sharon came to get me, and I sat in that meeting, and I did what I always did. I compared myself to the people in the meeting, and I said, these hillbillies did not use dope like I did. I'm from up north. You can stay clean 5 years. Yeah, sure. We did it different up there. I did, because that's what I did all through my youth. I compared my outsides, my insides to everything about you. I never measured up. I was totally living in very inferior. And so I did the same stuff when I got to NA. You know, I looked around the room, and I just found every reason why this wasn't going to work for me. And I started reading the steps on the wall, going, what the hell? When I got here, I was dumb as a box of rocks. I had lived to use and used to live. I heard that. Who was an addict? You know, we live to use and use to live. My whole life and thinking was centered in drugs in one form or another. You know, I hadn't used my mind for anything but getting dope. And when I looked at the steps, I was like, damn, you know, they put the word power and less together. I just couldn't really figure it out. I didn't think that this was going to work for me. I kept coming back, though, because y'all said, we'll love you till you love yourself. Keep coming back. You know what we say. And so now, you know, I get my daughter back. I get a job. And I get a job with this tobacco company because one of the guys in the program helped me to find a job because I hadn't worked and I didn't know how to do anything. So I got a job stuffing cigarette packs in the stores, you know, and putting cartons in the racks for a tobacco company. And then I smoked. So I come in the NA meeting going, you know, they told me to tell on my disease. Okay, I stole a pack of cigarettes. And I feel really bad about it. And, well, you know, you just got to stop that behavior, Amy. So I come in a few more days later. I said, damn, I took a carton. And they're going, what's next, Amy, the truck? And that was the first time that I was able to see that it wasn't about the dope. You know, that my addiction I was a thief. Because when I lived to use and used to live, all the time that I got was for ripping and running. I had larceny by trick. I had extortion. Just everything was taking stuff that did not belong to me or conning. You know, I grew up in a Jewish home. I was a very good business person. I could talk you out of your money. What I wasn't good at on the street, which was like really wrong, they said the exact nature of your wrongs. You know, I was thinking, I did not make a good hoe. I was like, you know, because after I couldn't steal anymore, like an active addiction, you know, I had, you know, the FBI said, you know, you're not going to get out till you're after you're 30. So I had to change jobs out there, you know, and I did work. I went to work every day. And I'm just going back to the disease because, you know, that's part of it. I wasn't meant to do that. I'd be like, excuse me, you know, and everybody else out on the street was like, oh, baby, hey, you know, and I didn't have that going on, but I still ended up doing a year for prostitution, and that was a very difficult thing, and to this, you know, and that's part of my amends list. You know, my father had to sit in the courthouse and listen to the judge say, step her back, you know, for prostitution, and that's, you know, I'm grateful I don't have to live like that today. See, one hit, and that's right where I go back, and it will not look pretty for Grandma out there trying to turn a damn trick. You know, And sometimes I watch this intervention show and I go, thank God, I am one hit away from bending over and having the police look in my ass for dope. And those kind of things keep me clean today. I look at where I go. I am not confused about where I end up. You all told me it progressively gets worse. When I pick up, I start where I ended up, and it will get worse. And I was able to see the progression of my disease. When I started smoking dope at 13, I could see the progression of my disease by the time I got to 31. So I will pick up where I was at 31. Now I'm in my 50s, and it gets worse. And, I don't use, because I can't go there. I don't have the energy for that. So anyway, I got a clear picture of, what the disease is about besides just using dope. I had never, when I got clean, I had never had sex without dope, and I live right next to Fort Gordon, and, I had to start coming in saying, damn, I just kind of cut loose with the soldiers. It was like, and I had to get a grip on that. My disease was continuing and progressively getting worse, and it was just manifesting itself in different areas in my life. And I would come in the rooms and share about that stuff. And so now, in recovery, I'm full of emotions about everything. Like I said, my daughter's father was in prison, so I used to have to take my daughter to go visit her dad in prison, and I don't know if anybody has this experience, but when you leave out with a little girl and you leave daddy locked up in a cage, and, that it's very hard to have to tell her that it's going to be okay. And so I also have a 15-year-old son, and his father died in active addiction when he was 2. And so this disease takes a lot away from everybody. It's ruthless. So I'm clean. I'm like, whatever y'all say, I'll do it. I used to try to go to area. And like I said, I was like dumb as a box of rocks. These people would come in with, there weren't laptops or anything. People come marching in the area with folders and boxes and policy and procedure. And I'm like going, I do not understand any of this. And I realized that, I'm not going to be a chair of anything because I do not get policies and procedure. I'm a hairdresser and my brain goes into creative mode. I do not do laws, policies. So today, my service is H&I. When I used to go to jail, I wasn't using except for when I got in the kitchen and we were able to make a little wine and stick it in the trunk and, the yeast and the sugar and all that. But, I never heard an NA message whenever I got locked up. I would think about how I'm going to get some more dope when I got out. I always ended up back on the corner. So, part of my amends is going into the jails and institutions and carrying a message in Narcotics Anonymous, and saying, we're giving you hope. Today you have a choice. If you never thought you had a choice, you have a choice not to pick up today. And that was the greatest gift is a choice. I never had a choice before. So, I learned to keep this thing very, very simple. My first sponsor, I'm like, Susie, I just want to be nice like you. You're a nice person. She was a doctor, and they used to call her Susie Cheesecake because she was all, hey, my name's Susie, I'm an addict. And I said, that's all I want. I want to be like you. So I went to work that night. Then I was waiting on tables, and the people said, oh, you were really nice. And they didn't leave a tip, and I remember that, but they said, you're really nice. And I realized God fulfilled my desire of wanting to be nice. See, I'm able to, I'm looking at these things that, everything that I wanted in recovery is manifesting itself. It's coming true. Every desire that I have, I had a desire to stop using dope, he took the desire away. I have a desire for just, small, simple desires, and they all happen. I mean, even down to like a red shirt, I'll be like, damn, I need a red shirt, and there it'll be. The exact same, just little stuff like that, that lets me know that God's in my heart. He hears, everything that I want and what I need. And, so I'll go through my simplified version of how I work the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous. And, if this helps, like I said, I've seen how this disease manifests itself in my life, without the dope. So, in step one, it's usually like, okay, I've had enough. My behavior is causing a lot of pain. I throw my hands up in the air. I surrender. I say, this is enough. This is without dope. It's affecting my life in all areas. It's killing me spiritually, mentally, physically. I can't sleep because of this behavior, or, I can't stop thinking about it. So in step one, I just say, I've had enough. In step two, it's like, okay, I make mistakes. The mistakes I make are more few and far between now, but when I first got clean, I made a hell of a lot of mistakes. But I came to realize that there's no mistake that is bigger than my higher power, and that he can fix everything. I believe that my higher power can fix every mistake that I make, and he does. And in step three, I make plans. In life, life is about making plans. And I can see that it's okay to make plans. I can't predict the outcome. When I start predicting the outcome, usually it may not end up right. And I know it's a good plan, and I know that it's my will if it happens to flow very naturally. I had a plan to open up a beauty salon. Boom, boom, boom. Got the license. It didn't cost very much. Found chairs on Craigslist. The rent was cheap. Everything just happened very naturally. It just flowed. That was God's will for me to have that little salon. And I have seen where I've made plans, and I have gone from A to Z trying to manipulate it, make it work, push it, fit it, and that was obviously not his will for me. In step four, all I do is simply examine myself. I need to find out who Amy is truly. And my 4 steps have taken on different lights, And today, when I have my sponsor, Loretta, is here, and I wrote my 4-step out of the big-ass flat book. I wrote it. I did it. And I haven't shared it with her yet, but and in this 4-step, I fell in love with Amy. I am so happy in my own skin. It is so different than the first 4-step I did. I had no idea. My sponsor said, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" I don't know. But today, 21 years later, I could never have imagined how I could feel this way about myself. I love every aspect of Amy today. And that's my 5th step. I just accept whatever I found in my 4th step. I have true self-acceptance. If I see some crap, I'm certainly far from perfect, but I'm a hell of a lot further than I was when I got here. And, today my thinking, used to always be on dope. Today my thoughts are on my recovery. Y'all taught me how to do this. So I'm okay to live in my skin because my thoughts are good. I have good thoughts, and I act out on my thoughts, and usually I'm acting in an appropriate manner. So step 6 is, these defects of character. I'll just speak of 2 because this, if it gives anybody an idea of, how defects manifest in your life. Mine, I'll use the one like arrogance, okay? I am arrogant, and on any given day, I used to be very inferior, but when I do feel superior, it's usually I am a superior piece of shit. And it's a little screwed up. But anyway, the arrogance that I've had throughout my life, what it's done is, because I was always facing such low self-esteem, that the arrogance served me nicely because it would prop up my ego. So I could function in the life in the world without feeling like, oh my God, I can't deal with these normal people. So arrogance, in a sense, I didn't need to really get rid of it. I just needed to find a proper place to put it. And the other one, in the book, it talks about our second nature is rebellion. I rebelled against everybody, everything you said, whoever you were. If you had some authority over me, I was going to do the opposite. So since I've been clean, rebellion, I can see where it actually served me in a nice way. My parents or, society, they used to say, oh, you're Jewish, you don't hang around those black people, or a lot of misinformation like that. I grew up in the 60s and I would hear these things, that were all based on egocentricism, they were all based on hypocrisy, and it never felt right to me. None of those things felt right. So I would rebel against, that misinformation. So how that rebellion has served me is that my children are biracial, and I have always been able to judge you by the content of your heart and not the color of your skin. It's because I rebelled against that fucking stupid-ass information that society tells us, that everything is based on the body. We have the skin disease. We're always judging somebody by, what our skin looks like. And that never felt right, even as a very small child. And, and since they put the dope in the black section, my whole life I've pretty much been I'm the only white person in my family. My parents are dead, but, my kids, my sponsors in a black body, all the people that are in my life, she ain't black, she's in a black body. Because I know today I'm not the body, I'm the soul inside the body, but I'll tell you that in the spiritual awakening. So anyway, that's my 6th step. And my 7th step is why the hell they call them shortcomings, because the damn things take they're long going. It's a slow process, but it's a process. In steps 8 and 9, I just become willing to make a list of all people I'd harm. I heard early on that I put myself on that list. I did a lot of damage to Amy. I put myself in harm's way. I've had guns to myself. I was out on the Holstrow when they were finding all the prostitutes dead in Suitland Parkway. I've had guns. I've been dragged just to get out of the car. God gave me enough strength one time just to hit the guy. There were 2 of them. I was dragged naked in a truck. My whole ass and my leg, the skin was tore off. I've put myself in a lot of harm's way. And, so I put myself on the list. I harm my family, a lot. My classmates, I'm coming to see how I try to go on Facebook now, and nobody from growing up wants to acknowledge my existence. And all that did was make me realize I hurt them. we all partied together, but I'm the one that became the heroin addict, and they just couldn't understand what the hell I was going through. And they thought I was dead. I went to one class reunion like 10 or 15 years ago, and they were like, damn, we thought you were dead. So, I harm those people. Those people have to go on my list. The people have to go on the list, or, God knows how many people I gave diseases to. My ass was in the health department. I moved to Florida, from Maryland, where I didn't even know they had bugs. When I moved to Florida, I ended up with every damn bug everywhere, crabs, scabies, lays, getting shots in my ass, and then I would go out and just have sex with people, and God knows how many diseases. These are people that I've harmed, and then they would go home and give it to their family. So those people have to go on my list, and that I have to become willing to make amends to these people. And there's a lot of people I cannot give direct amends to. So what I do to, the licks and the tricks and all those people, I go and I serve in Narcotics Anonymous in a capacity, and I give back to my community. I try to help in every way that I can, and that's how I make indirect amends to people. When I was clean 11 years, my mother had passed away. And I'm one that, it says that we seek through medicine, religion, and psychiatry. None of these methods were sufficient for us. Our disease always resurfaced and continued to progress until in desperation we sought help through Narcotics Anonymous. I've never taken medicine and I've never been to a psychiatrist, but I tried to recover in religion. And I stopped coming regularly to Narcotics Anonymous. I would pop in and get a medallion, and I was trying to recover, or I was just, in religion, and, because that's what my 11th step was. What I'm getting at with that is that my mother, when I was 11 years clean, abstinent, doing the religious thing, she's on her deathbed, waiting to go home with hospice, the last day in the hospital. And I went up and I said, Mom, do you think I could get a little money to buy this land? And my mom said, these are like my mother's last words. She goes, oh my God, she's at it again. My total self-centered nature, my total self-absorption, I could not allow my mother, I couldn't give her the honor of dying. She said she's at it again. My mother knew, that the disease, I was in full-blown disease without using the dope. She said, oh my God, she's at it again. And and if I had been active in my recovery and working steps, I would have been more serving her every whim and telling her how much I love her. But I wasn't getting all that in my religion, because of what I'm doing is, I'm catching a bunch of resentments for organized religion, and I was just so caught up in all that, anger, resentment, and fear that I couldn't be there. I didn't have a lot of spiritual principles to give, and so my mom is on that list, and I couldn't make direct amends. I wrote my mother a long letter, and I apologized, and and I burned it, and so that's steps 1 through 7. I'm finding Amy. I'm developing a relationship with myself. I'm developing a relationship with my higher power. And in 8 and 9, I'm developing a relationship with people in my life. I'm asking for forgiveness, and there's a lot of freedom that comes with that. When I worked the 8th and 9th step, I felt a new sense of freedom, not just from the act of addiction, but just from just my whole. It just feels good to be able to get closer to people, and when I free myself of all all this harm that I created and really go. You know, and I had sponsored once a lady, and she says, she slept with her friend's husband. She goes, should I go make amends? And I'm like, hell no. You know, I said, she goes, well, how do I make amends? And I said, just don't do it again. You know, sometimes you just can't go and make direct amends to people because your ass will be whipped. That when to do so would injure yourself or others. You know, you know, we have to use our intelligence. You know, God gave me some intelligence that I need to use it. And so there's direct and there's indirect amends. If I get angry and I throw a brick in your windshield, I can't go just say I'm sorry. I have to go say, gosh, I am so sorry, and hand you a check. And so step 10 is just looking at my attitude and my actions. It's a simple tool just to, you know, that I use daily, just taking a look at how I behaved, and if it wasn't right, just change it. You know, we got a little power. I think the next speaker will talk about not having any power, but we have a power of choice, and I have I believe that I have a choice. I can change how I react to the world. And that's in the 11th step. I get up every morning, and my prayer, my meditation, or I chant the holy names of God, and I do it for an hour and a half every morning. And my higher power says if I call on Him, He detaches me from everything that's going on outside of myself. You know, if I call Loretta, my sponsor, if I call anybody in this room, I will improve my conscious contact with you. I will be talking to you. So in the same way, I call on my higher power, and I develop a more conscious contact with Him. And that's what works for me. Everybody, you know, we're free. We're free to choose, you know, what type of prayer meditation that we're going to do. And that works for me. You know, my higher power, you know, I could be really crazy with, oh my God, all the oil in the Gulf and all the kids getting killed over there in Iraq, or, you know, my kids just won't do right. But, you know, my 11th step just saves myself. It gives me some peace and serenity in my life, and the ability to deal with my emotions. I survive my emotions. And in the 12th step, I reap the rewards of practicing these 12 steps. I reap the rewards of all the spiritual principles that come as a result of working them. And I really, really, really get the benefit when I do it when nobody's looking. And, you know, and that's, you know, when I'm practicing a spiritual life, you know, when I'm not in the rooms, when I go home, when I'm here, you know, and I you know, stop acting angry with my children. You know, when y'all aren't looking and I'm acting and behaving in a good way, then this program's actually working in my life. My son's 15 years old, and I say he's a very, very good boy. You know, he doesn't listen to what I say, but he's a good boy. Okay? Doesn't listen to a damn thing I say. But he, out of all the kids in his high school, was picked. I live in Florida. He was picked to go represent the community in his school to go to Washington, D.C. as for this youth congressional leadership conference. And, you know, I'm very proud of him. And, you know, and the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree. I've raised him honestly, and I thought, oh my God, he's going to D.C. You know, and this thing is sponsored by senators and congressmen. I'm like, damn, all they got to do is put Gendelman in the thing, and they'll see, oh my God, you know, extortion, prostitution. His mother, you know, I'm 205-212 in D.C., you know, and So these are the miracles, you know, the recovery. I don't know, I'm so grateful. So we, you know, in recovery, we find, we recognize the symptoms of our disease. You know, it's like a lot of alone, isolation, fear, judging others. You know, these are all symptoms of the disease. So, you know, in recovery, you know, through the 12 steps, I can start to recognize the symptoms of a spiritual awakening. And my kids are like, Mom, why are you always smiling? It's a symptom. I just smile all the time. I have bursts of gratitude. All I got to do is thank God for y'all in Narcotics Anonymous, and I just feel I am so happy, I am so joyful, and I am so free. That's my goal in Narcotics Anonymous. I have to have a clear goal. If I don't know where I'm going, how the hell am I won't be able to get there. My goal is simple. Happy, joyous, and free. The goal is the way to get to the goal. I have to know the way to get to the goal if I'm going to get to the goal. Not only am I acceptable, responsible, and productive member of society, I have a daughter, and her and I live semi-harmoniously in a hair salon together. So I'm, you know, my daughter was a teenager. She's 24 yesterday. She was my reason to stay clean. I didn't stay clean for Amy for a long time. I did not like me. I stayed clean because I did not want to lose my daughter. I was getting ready to lose her. Yesterday, August 20th, she turned 24 years old. Yesterday was 19 years where I did not smoke I haven't smoked a cigarette, y'all, in 19 years. And that... I remember standing outside of my home group, my noon meeting, We Do Recover in Augusta, Georgia, smoking a cigarette going, I really love myself today. And that was one of those spiritual awakenings. There's something freaking wrong with this picture. You know, and I was determined. Somebody said, use the same determination you had to get money and dope every day, and use that determination to quit smoking cigarettes. I said, all right, I'll do that. And, you know, because my sponsor said, just keep it simple. Learn to be gentle to yourself. You know, I haven't eaten meat in like 18 years. You know, and I don't promote vegetarianism. You know, it's not part of Narcotics Anonymous, but... You know, the light went off when I realized that, okay, take a piece of chicken, take a piece of steak, you stick it in 98.5 degree weather out there, look at it in like 2 or 3 hours, and I'm like, shit, I don't want that stuff in my body. You know, because this is a program where we, you know, learn to take care of ourselves physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. So physically, I don't do that to myself today. And, you know, that works for me. That is an act of compassion that I have, because I was not able to see the difference between my dog and the cow. I just, you know, something happened, and I certainly would not eat that, you know. So this is just my experience, strength, and hope. You know, this is where I have come in my recovery, okay? I don't feel, I'm not judging you, you know, at all. I don't judge. My best friends are people that eat meat. You know, you know, everyone I know does. And, you know, and they're all very considerate. They consider, oh, Amy's coming, what should we have? You know, and you know, and that's my job in a sense, without trying it to be, is just try to raise the level of consciousness, you know, in whatever way. You know, so just by my presence of that, you know, people get to thinking. And, okay, let's see, I think if nobody told you they loved you today, I truly love you. I love each and every one of you in here. You know, y'all just saved my life. Even if you come in and you used and you just tell me how terrible it is. I'll share this because this is what I'm going through in my recovery today. My daughter is 24. There are 6 of her friends that are strung out on pills. They have the equivalent of a heroin addiction that I know about, And on one hand, I'm like, damn, they got it friggin' easy. They don't have to go down to 11th and O and 14th and U and, the worst, whatever y'all have in New York, wherever you go to cop in the city, it is fucking dangerous. They don't have to do that. All they got to do is go over there and, buy it. But what I'm saying, there's 6 of them, and in the group that I had, like 20 people, that I went to, there was one that became a heroin addict, and she's got 6 friends that are actually strung out. I've been taking them to meetings. 3 of the boys are in jail now. They could not hear the message just yet. Something was planted, but they have a reservation and they're not able to surrender. All 3 of them have picked up felonies. Now these are the kids that they were over at my house and I helped raise. And the one girl was in my salon on Monday, 98 pounds, fresh track marks on her arms. This girl is so brilliant. She was an exchange student in Japan, but she's looking for love, and so anyway, she's on her 5th day, and I hope when I get back she's still clean. She went to a meeting yesterday with my daughter's fathers, actually came down for the weekend for my daughter's birthday. They went camping, and I hope when I get back that she's still clean. She's one person so far out of the 6 that are totally strung out. One girl, my daughter's neighbor, her best friend, just lost her kids. The husband's in jail. She's strung out, totally still lying about it. So all I can do is try to be there, and do what I do. You pick them up, you take them to the meeting. If you want to kick dope on my couch, okay, you can come over, So and that's giving back, and Edwin is looking at me now like, okay, he's got the cane, so I'm being dragged away. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Please help us improve our ranking so others can find us by putting a review on Stitcher, iTunes, or your favorite podcast index. Napod is ad-free thanks to the folks supporting the show with $1 or more per month. If you enjoy listening, you can join them by going to napod.xyz and looking for the donate link. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.